Hi, welcome to Cubs in Culture for January 23rd, 2018, talking about lineups, or more specifically, who should lead off for the Cubs. Okay, so let me point something out. You do not have to have the same lineup every single day. And I think far too many people think about their lineup construction as you're picking a lineup for the 162 games. Now, you wouldn't necessarily want to vary your lineup every single game, or just to do it for no reason. And I do think eventually, pretty much all the slots will be settled. And I think so. My argument is, in terms of who should lead off, that everyone but Bryant should do it at some point. So I think Bryant should always be in the second slot. Or in any case, if you're not going to have him in the second slot, you should have him in the third slot and have Rizzo in the second slot. Because Rizzo, that nickname's there for a reason. They're very similar players. Anyway, so if you go through sort of the position players the Cubs currently have, you wouldn't necessarily want to assign the leadoff slot to them all the time, because pretty much every player has a significant issue offensively where you wouldn't necessarily want them leading off the entire time. So let me just quickly go through them. Albert Almora and Javi Baez lack plate discipline, so their OBS, their OBP on base percentage is a little bit too low. And similar to the same vein, Hap, despite the fact that he hits for being a switch hitter, I think he has a tendency to also lack plate discipline because of his age and pressure. And I think being for his second season, being the leadoff slot would be too much. On sort of the opposite end of the spectrum, Zobrist, especially has had a wrist injury last year, where I think he's turning 37 or something, that he's very much on the back end of his career, so you wouldn't necessarily want him playing. He's probably not going to be an everyday player. He's probably going to be far more of a backup player at this point. As you saw when you saw with Schwarbs in the first season last year, he's an extreme pull hitter, so with defensive shifting, it's a pretty easy out because of that. Rizzo, you need him to protect Bryant. La Stella, you want to sort of reserve for being the pinch hitter. Haywood, he has weak contact. So you wouldn't necessarily want to maximize his plate appearances because his OBS, his entire offensive production, is low for the team. Contreras might be an okay choice, but the issue is because he has a tendency to hit the ball on the ground a lot, which is fine for a leadoff hitter. Ichiro made a career of infield hits. My problem with giving Contreras a lot of at-bats over the course of the season is increases the chances of him injuring himself. Because for especially infield hits, he likes to lunge at the first base. And he actually pulled his hamstring last year. So, I want him to not have a lot of opportunities doing that. Then Russell has, he has good offensive numbers for a shortstop, but he's a low hitting, he's a shortstop, so he's defensively inclined. Okay. So none of them all have great sort of plate. They all have significant downsides for giving that amount of plate appearances. But okay, so here's the thing. This is one thing that sort of bothers me in this sport is we always seem to talk about matching pitchers to batter, especially when it comes to the bullpen. So the most basic level of this is because of the angles and everything. Generally speaking, left-handed batters will see the ball out of left-handed pitchers not as well as right-handed. This is why left-handers in general tend to destroy right-handed pitching and struggle against left-handed pitching, and vice versa. Of course, there are certain people who are reverse split guys. Uriel on the Astros. can't hit left-handed pitching worth a damn, but he destroys righties despite being a righty. And side note, this is why when Clayton Kershaw serving up that 3-run homer in inning 4 of Game 5 was somewhat embarrassing because Gurriel does not hit left-handed pitching. Anyway, so we always tend to talk about this, about matching pitcher to batter, but it obviously works the other way, right? Where you can match batter to pitcher. So let me use... I'm using my favorite player, and I like using him as an example. Baez, as I said in the past, struggles with breaking balls down and away. He is, however, he for whatever reason, he sits on changeups better. Where it's so if a changeup will drop below the zone or anything like that, or he stays on it, and he just seems to see changeups better. So. He also tends to be better against left-handed pitching. So here's the thing: if you're talking about one game where Baez might seen 1 or 2 extra plate appearances, if the starter is a left-hander whose main off-speed pitch is a changeup, I'm perfectly fine giving him an extra plate appearance here or there. Okay, so I would be okay for that one game to have Baez lead off. Likewise, I haven't looked specifically for the other players, but because players tend to see different pitches better, that there's sort of, and then we know this through records, that you want to, so let me use Rizzo, for example. Rizzo and Bryant both feast on Reds pitching. Sorry, my couple of friends. I don't even have the numbers in front of me, but like last year between the both of them, they hit like 15 home runs or something, which is basically won a game. So it's true for the entire Reds pitching staff. So when the Cubs are playing the Reds, I'm perfectly fine putting Rizzo in the leadoff spot because he's so that for whatever reason he does better against Reds pitching. Okay, so here's the thing. One of the things about the Cubs being a data-driven thing is they have an army of interns who looks at this sort of thing, and Joe Maddon's actually given every single day. We don't know what's in it because obviously you're in a competitive sport, so you don't necessarily want to look at reveal like trade secrets, but it's this thing. It's not a batting average, but it looks like a batting average where 200's bad and 300 is good. But it's a projection based off of how probably using Lumbus and which is weighted on base plus slugging, and some other factors, and also probably like the tendencies of the pitcher and the batter or whatever. So like if 300 is really good, that it's projected every single day for the batter versus today's pitcher. Okay, so I'm perfectly fine whatever the cocktail says. Again, I wish I knew it was in this thing. Whoever has other than Bryant, whoever has the best cocktail for that day should be the leadoff guy. And the only sort of thing you want to have to and so this is one thing I think Joe Maddon, and the sort of like one of the things I like about Joe Maddon as his manager is he's willing to play around with lineup and positioning. And in a way, I think this is maybe one. So last year, one of the things that sort of bothered me in the first half is Maddon didn't seem to do this as often. It was only later that I realized he didn't do it because it is more stressful on the players, and so he wanted to give players a break. So you can't. So the sort of argument I'm making that you should match the leadoff guy based off of the day's pitcher, as in like how you do in the bullpen, matching pitcher to batter. Just do it the opposite way, batter to pitcher. Excuse me. That it's harder on the player. So you wouldn't necessarily. So eventually, maybe you don't want to do it every single day. But maybe maybe do it every series or every couple of weeks, switch it around. Again, it's an art between balancing what the sabermetric says and what, like basic human understanding that people get tired and we're creatures of habit. Okay, let me just quickly also talk about this, about sort of matchups. One of the things that happened, maybe this is just me being a Madden fanboy, but a lot of people complained about him, Madden not bringing Davis in Game 2 of the NLCS against the Cubs, and then, of course, Turner, though gloriously it's empty because of the Astros, hit the walk-off home run on the same day of Kirk Gibson. But suck it, Dodgers, it's meaningless now. Here's the thing. Davis was not like Davis versus Lackey versus what you gained in Davis over Lackey in terms of matchup isn't really that much because in the way Turner's tendencies as a hitter doesn't Turner tends to hit pitchers like Davis. So with Davis being tired from Game 5 of the NLDS and everything like that, I thought it was absolutely reasonable that the amount you would have gained with Davis, you didn't gain much. And I think this was later confirmed in Game 4, where the Cubs won, but Turner was facing Davis and he hits a home run. So it doesn't seem like it wasn't like Davis was an ideal matchup. We didn't have an ideal matchup. So he was sort of pick your worst option for Joe Madden. And I wouldn't necessarily have gone with Lackey, but I sure as hell wouldn't have gone with Davis. Okay, I'm at 12 minutes for this segment, so goodbye, Cubs and Culture out. I'll see you tomorrow for a Culture.